And you're broadcasting.
Okay.
Are we on?
We are on.
All right, welcome everyone to the second ever television edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed. It is Wednesday, February 15th, I think. Is it the 15th? 16th? I don't know what day it is.
Today's the 15th.
15th.
Day after Valentine's. 2012,
coming to you from the QCE News Studio D. How many studios are there, Glenn?
There are 5.
There are 5, so it goes up to E. Is E the food one? E for eat?
Yes.
Ah, yes.
The one upstairs and all the others are downstairs.
Yes,
There's
okay.
only 5 enterprises. I think the last one was an E.
Oh, yes,
I don't know.
Enterprise E, yes.
Useless facts.
We actually have a Studio F, but I don't know why they call it that. But
That sounds dirty.
I know why it's called Studio F.
Yeah.
it's our event studio. When we do the parades, it's on the main
Oh,
street.
okay.
It's also upstairs. The last 2 studios are upstairs on the first floor.
Oh, very good. So this is the second television edition that we've done. The first one was, of course, primary week for the New Hampshire primary that we did at 1000 Elm Street. And Glenn has invited me back to do a second installment of the television edition. The radio edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed is moving to Sunday mornings, but I'm very happy to be here tonight. My guest, of course, on my right is Mr. Glenn R.J. Willett, the
Glenn.
President and CEO, publisher, editor, all
please.
that of QCE News. Well, Glenn, I mean, it's your baby, QCEnews.com.
It's the People's Network.
The People's Network, the newspaper, the
TV radio station.
TV radio station. So very happy to be here tonight. This is, of course, going out on both QCEnews.com and IPMNation.com. And on my left, of course, is Chris Rose,
Hi, Matt.
host of Verbal Ejaculation Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
I hope
Hey.
this is your second installment. The way you say it, I'm hoping that by mid-March, to the end of March, the latest, that you'll be doing this every week.
Absolutely,
On both
absolutely.
stations.
Really looking forward to that.
And
Absolutely.
I'm now putting it in my head that I'm considering you doing your show as well
You don't want verbal ejaculation
On a later-
televised.
on a later date.
You,
On a later night?
You
I mean,
don't
on a
want
later
that
time?
much.
You
That
don't-
much sexiness on your
Oh, is
television.
that bad?
No.
It's a lot of
Dan
sexiness.
and I, it's too much
Yeah.
sexy.
Okay.
Too
It
much
really
sexy.
is.
Like Ricky Martin, it's too sexy.
It's so much sexy. I'm secure enough in my
Martin.
my masculinity to say that
sexy.
sometimes even though I'm straight, I get a little aroused.
Yep.
It is that sexy.
I turn myself on.
Yeah, he
Whoa!
does.
I'm
He
single.
does. It's quite.
All right.
But before we well, not before we get into that, because we probably won't speak of that anymore tonight.
No,
but,
no.
But I do want to talk to
that.
you guys about it, and I want to get your opinions on the Santorum surge, because this is amazing to me. I don't think anyone really thought that this would happen. We're in a situation now, and this has been the most exciting primary cycle that I can remember. You know, the front runner keeps switching. I was really afraid at one point that Mitt Romney was going to sew it up early, win enough primaries where he would have the nomination pretty well sewn up.
No chance.
And then it would be very boring. But instead of it being boring, it's been very exciting because Rick Santorum, well, it turns out he won Iowa. We found out after the
Yes,
fact
right.
that
Yes.
he did win Iowa.
He got cheated out of that one.
Yes.
Because by the time he found out he won, New Hampshire had already voted.
Voted
Right.
for their primaries.
Right, exactly. And then he won it all in one day. He won, what is it, Colorado, Missouri,
And
Michigan.
and
no.
Mississippi.
No, not Mississippi. It was
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Thank you, RJ. And then, but it looks like, speaking of Michigan, it looks like he's going to win Michigan. He is 15 points ahead of Romney in Michigan, according to the last poll that I saw. If he wins Michigan, that's huge.
So one has to beg to differ then, Matt, is where is Gingrich in Michigan? He claims he was going to win Michigan.
Right.
Remember.
Yeah, I think Gingrich is pretty well sunk.
Yeah.
I think he's done. I think that all the negative campaigning has really hurt him.
Yeah.
Well,
And
why
he said
has
he
it not
came out.
hurt Mitt Romney? He's got a lot of negative.
It is hurting Mitt Romney.
It is.
It is hurting Mitt Romney, and that's why. Because the thing is, okay, I would never vote for Santorum. He's much too conservative for me. But I think the reason he appeals to a lot of people is because he is genuine, and that is one positive thing I'll say about him. I do think he's genuine. I do think he's authentic. I think he's the real deal in terms of what he believes. And so I think what's happening is you have all these conservatives who...
Oh, excuse
Bless you.
me.
Bless you, Glenn R.J. Willett.
It's all that Santorum stuff in
I
the air.
know, you
Yeah,
gotta-
you don't want to get Santorum in the
Yeah, you
lungs.
don't want Santorum in your sinuses, certainly. My
No,
goodness.
no,
You got to
you don't want
sneeze that out.
Santorum.
But you have to
Anywhere near
realize,
you.
No.
Matt, that Santorum is the only one left on the religious right.
Yes.
Of all the candidates, there was 3 or 4 of them. He's the only one standing.
Yeah, that's true, because Romney is a Mormon, does not want to talk about social issues if he can avoid it.
And when he does, he puts his foot in his mouth.
Right, yes, he does.
Michelle's gone.
Yeah, Bachmann is
she
gone.
was a religious right candidate.
Yes.
So was Herman Cain. He's gone.
Yeah.
So was at the end not Mitt, but Gingrich. He was getting some of the vote. It was being split between him
Right.
and Santorum. And now that it's Santorum that's all
Catholic.
here.
Rick
Right.
Perry was on the Christian right.
Yes, yes.
I don't think you can count Huntsman because he was probably religious, but he was.
Well, he's
St.
also a
Legit
Mormon.
right?
Yeah. And
But he wasn't controversial the way Mitt Romney was. Much more
Right.
acceptable.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think Huntsman was the best
Oh, I thought so,
potential general election candidate they had.
He would have made a
agree.
good president, I think.
I agree.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
probably make a
I
good
think he
vice
would have made.
president.
I think
Yeah.
he would have made a hell of a presidential candidate.
he may yet make a good vice president.
Yes, you
Yeah.
never know.
Because okay, if Santorum does become the nominee, and that is possible at this point, I really think it could happen.
Oh, I don't know about that though.
I think it could, but
He
if,
has to win more than just Michigan. How many delegates in Michigan?
yeah, but here's the thing: Michigan is one of Romney's home states,
right,
and
he
I
was
say
raised there. He was
right,
raised there.
right, and I say one of because he tries to claim
Well,
he claims
several
Michigan,
states.
he claims
Utah.
Massachusetts, Utah. If he loses, if Romney actually loses Michigan to Santorum,
It's not good.
that I think completely erases the air of inevitability that Romney has as far as becoming the nominee.
Yeah.
At that point, he begins to look he already looks vulnerable. But at that point, I think people will finally say, okay, it's not inevitable. This really is a fight. That gives Santorum a whole lot of extra momentum. And interestingly enough, too, by the way, Romney did win Maine, but now there's all kinds of dispute about that
Yes,
because some of the counties' votes didn't even get counted.
And remember, in Maine, he wasn't even going to show up. Mm-hmm. But he just lost 3 elections. And I got to get back on top here. So
Yeah.
I'll go visit Maine,
Yeah.
which is not very far from where he lives in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, his homes.
Right.
And then he had this deal he claimed he had going, or his party, or his people claimed they had going, that they were negotiating with Ron Paul to give it up.
Mm-hmm.
It would be his elections. I don't think so.
Yeah, because Ron Paul has come in second, according to, as the results now stand, in Maine. Why do you guys
Strong
think,
second.
Why do you guys think that is? Do you think it's because of such a base of independence there in Maine? I know
Yes, that's one thing.
they had an independent governor at one point, Angus King.
They've had several independent governors. I'm from Maine in the last 20 years.
Oh, that's right. You're from
Yeah.
there, so you know.
Yeah.
I mean, is that
it's a very independent state?
so? Is that how you would explain that? Because Ron Paul does attract some independence. Do you think that's why a guy like Ron Paul does so
one
well
of the
there?
reasons why he got so much votes is the only 2 candidates that actually campaigned in Maine was Romney and Ron Paul.
Okay.
But at the same token, it's not just the independents. He's very much speaking for the voice of the Libertarian Party as well. And I thought
Libertarian
New Hampshire
Party's
had a good
Yeah.
stronghold in New Hampshire,
But
in
the
this
Libertarian
state. Not
Party is
just,
not very big in Maine.
but in New Hampshire it was,
It
and he
was.
still ended up
Yes.
trailing.
Yes. But in Maine, they're much more independent, and they don't like the reason why they've had a couple of independent governors before is because they don't always listen to the party. A lot of people in Maine believe, as I do, as an independent, that these political parties' agendas, the Democrats and Republicans have different agendas, and they want to lead us to a path that brings us where? Chaos.
Right.
No, it's politics as usual. So they believe in the independents. Let's get someone that can think for themselves. And Ron Paul can think for himself.
Well, what about the Republicans in Maine? Because it's my perception that the Republicans in Maine are not very culturally conservative. Is that correct? Is that why? Because why wouldn't Santorum do as well in Maine as he seems to be
Because
doing
he
in
didn't
these other
campaign.
states? Do you think that's?
See,
do you think that's it?
The
Do you think
voters
that's the
in
only
Maine
reason?
are so independent that if you're not going to bother to come see us
Right.
and actually campaign for the office,
Right.
we're not going to bother to vote for you. We don't know who you are.
Much like New Hampshire. I mean, we
Yeah,
kind of have
yeah.
that same attitude here.
New England is like that.
Yeah.
The New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont, the what they call the tri-state. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're pretty much 3 good independent states.
So who's a better challenger for Obama? Who's a stronger challenger? Do you guys think, Romney or Santorum?
Well, the polls say 31 to 30, so that's pretty close to me. Does it really make a difference?
Well, here's
A couple of points.
Here's why I ask this. I'm kind of changing my thinking. I assumed for a long time that Romney would, if you were to, between the two of them, that Romney would be stronger because Romney can appeal more to independents.
Money-wise and negative, yes.
Well, also, too, because people think he's not a true conservative. So someone like me, for example, who's an independent, I'm not, let me put it this way. I wouldn't support Romney, but I'm not frightened of him either. I'm not frightened of Mitt Romney as president the same way I am frightened of someone like, say, a Rick Perry or a Michelle Bachmann or people
even,
like that.
Even Rick Santorum.
Or even
scares
Santorum
me
in
as a
some
president.
ways.
I would say if you're looking at it from a debate standpoint, I honestly think Barack Obama could wipe the floor with Mitt Romney.
I agree.
You go for some of Mitt's weakest points, which is his flip-flopping on social issues, target him on his money and his finances, with Rick Santorum, who is a man who seems to be in his convictions, doesn't seem to waver from those.
Right.
That he would be able to hold his own very much so, and he would be the stronger challenger against
That is very true,
Barack
Chris,
Obama.
but I still maintain the way the GOP started running their campaign this year and the way that they're continuing doing it by really slamming themselves, much more than even the Democrats. They were bad when Obama
yeah.
and Hillary was, but not this bad. They're
it's
actually,
nasty.
They're actually destroying themselves.
It's a circular firing
It's giving
squad.
the Democrats pause, saying, look, we can work with them. We know these
Yeah.
guys. I still think they're giving Obama back the election.
And that's why the Obama campaign's on cruise control. I don't think they're scared of either of these guys. But
Get over $1 billion, $1 billion. That's
Sure.
So
But I do think at this point, I see. I'm starting to wonder because I thought Romney would be stronger in a general election because he doesn't frighten independents. But now I'm thinking that because independents are getting very turned off by all the negative campaigning
That's
from the
right.
Romney campaign, from the super PAC, and I think that Santorum, as much as it may be a wash. Santorum will certainly turn off independents because
He's too conservative.
He's too conservative.
Yeah.
But he
Scary.
will potentially energize and mobilize the Republican base in a way that Romney could not. I think if Romney is the nominee, a lot of these people are going to stay home and just sit it out because that's what a lot of people do if they're not happy with either
Yeah.
candidate.
Yeah.
Even if they're Republicans, they're not going to go and vote for Obama. They're not going to go. Republicans aren't going to vote against Romney, but they're not going to necessarily bother to go vote for him either. Whereas Santorum, I think, will actually excite and energize these people potentially. So he may,
to some extent.
despite being very conservative, may be a stronger general election candidate for that reason.
I don't really think so.
You don't think so?
I think we saw this in 2004 with John Kerry. The fact that
Yeah.
there were so many of us die hard against Bush people,
Right.
but not enough
carry
people
him.
who actually. It was one of two things: did we
Yeah.
hate Bush enough, or did we like Kerry enough? And I don't think people liked Kerry necessarily
No.
as our candidate.
No one was
sort of
excited about it.
It's John Kerry.
It's almost a repeat of that campaign. And furthermore, you just made a statement earlier about how the independents may want to go for Kerry, which they would a lot more. I mean, for
Romney.
for Romney a lot more than they would Santorum because he's so conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But look at it on the other side. That's how Obama won. He won because of the independent. Very strong.
Oh, absolutely.
And look at it this way.
And some
Do you
Republicans, too.
really think that Obama, look how he runs his administration, did you really convinced that he is a strict Democrat? He can be pretty independent himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Republicans try to paint him as some sort of crazy
Yeah, I know.
socialist,
Yeah,
and
but that's not
he's
true.
secretly a Muslim, and he was born in Kenya, and all this
I know.
nonsense.
Not when
It's-
during his State of the Union address he was quoting almost verbatim things that Ronald Reagan stood for.
yes.
Or Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Or Abraham Lincoln. So I think with Romney, if you're looking at a Romney-Obama
Obama
debate,
will get it.
You're
I'm
getting
sorry, you're
split
giving
right
it
down
away.
the middle
Yeah.
of independent votes.
You're
because-
giving it away.
Yeah.
You see, if I were to vote today for the president, and there are only 5 candidates running right now, if you include Obama,
Yes.
4 on the Republican side and 1 on the Democratic side.
Mhm.
If those 5 candidates were on the ballot today and you had to pick one, I'd have to wait till I was in the booth to pick.
Really.
I'm just not happy with any of them.
Right.
So if you're going to have Obama versus Romney, wow, when Romney says, I'm not concerned too much about the poor. Remember, it's the poor and the middle class that are paying 99% of the taxes.
Right.
And it's the 1% that I'm getting wealthier. I think he should concern himself
Right.
with the poor.
Well, this is his other problem, though, is that, I think people, and I'll be interested to see if you guys agree with me about this. I I don't think it's by any means a requirement that a candidate had to have been poor at some point in their life to be president.
No,
but I
no.
do think people like the idea. I think Americans like the idea of having a leader who, at some point in their lives, has had some concept of what it's like to struggle
Yes.
in America.
Pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Right. And anyone who's running for president is rich. You have to be rich to run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all rich.
I was selling books.
But Romney, has always been rich.
Yes.
He was born into a rich family. Romney has never had to struggle a day in his life.
Did you say spoon-fed?
Oh, sure, yes.
Silver spoon
Yes.
fed.
So he can't really have any concept on it. Of course he doesn't. I understand. He didn't literally mean to say that he doesn't care about poor people.
know.
That's not literally what he meant to say, but I do think that probably literally is how he feels.
Yes, and that's a big mistake. In fact, he's admitted it himself that I said, I misspoke.
Yeah.
I should have thought. Well, I don't want to elect a president that doesn't think before he speaks.
Right.
And you know what? When
Yeah.
they say that Obama's always has to have a, what do they call that?
A teleprompter.
Teleprompter.
Which is
All
such a
presidents today have teleprompters.
Oh, of
It's
course.
the rule.
Of course. It's such a petty thing for them to pick on
and
him
when the
about.
Republicans say that the president's always playing golf on vacation, well, during the Christmas vacation, the president arrived a couple of days after Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
after New Year's, back to the White House and started work.
Yeah.
The Congress waited another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you know what? You can talk all you want, but you got to practice what you preach.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, this petty stuff when they pick on him about playing golf or going on
What
vacation
else
or whatever.
bit as American?
Where was W during Katrina? Oh, that's right. He was on vacation. And it took
right.
Yeah.
3 days to
Yeah.
finally get back.
But
Look
ultimately,
what happened in 9/11. It took him hours. He couldn't leave the
Oh, they-
school yet. You know?
they had to hide him. They were
hide
flying him
him.
around the country hiding him. But it's such a petty thing anyway. Who cares? The leader of the free world has the toughest job in the world. I mean,
no
that's the most
question.
pressure.
There's no question.
If he wants to take a couple days off and
Yeah.
play golf, let him. It's so petty when they. I mean, I used to think the same thing. It's not a partisan thing. I used to think the same thing when they would pick on Bush for going to his ranch to cut brush.
Yeah.
Brush for a couple weeks. Bush
The Crawford Ranch.
would cut brush or brush.
The man is the leader of the free world, but
Yeah.
he cannot be on 24/7, 365
Right.
days a year.
Yeah.
You
But the-
try doing that.
Right,
You know
exactly.
what bothers me,
Awesome.
guys, is that if you look at the tick and tack that's going back and forth, what has the Congress done last year? Twice in 3 months, they've had to come back to bring up the deficit.
Well, the debt ceiling, yeah.
because
They
they didn't,
held that one
because they
hostage.
didn't.
Yeah.
That's right. They didn't deal with it the first time, and they didn't deal with it at Christmas time either. They had 6 Democrats, 6 Republicans, and they came away. They couldn't even find $1.2 trillion.
Right.
Right.
The super committee.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now what's worse is they're doing it again. The same thing with the
Payroll.
payroll tax.
Tax.
Yeah.
They did that in October, November. That's why the president came to Manchester. His job
Yeah.
thing as well as and they passed it for a couple of months. They got to have it passed before the month is over.
Yeah.
Why can't they deal? They were elected to deal with the issues, not pass on to the next buck. It's because the GOP has this theory that if we make sure no laws are passed, that he's a do-nothing president. The thing
Right.
is, it's not their job. Their job is to pass laws that will get rid of our problems.
Yeah.
It's our job to elect a president.
Well, the payroll tax issue has exposed these people for what they really are.
You would think
because
so.
because Republicans are all about cutting taxes and keeping taxes low, but because Obama proposes a payroll tax, oh, now there's all these questions and doubts about whether that's really the right thing to
Yeah.
do. It's so transparent and it's so petty.
Well, where are the
and they play
jobs?
politics with our economy.
The Republicans are now backing down. Say, oh,
Yeah.
you know, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe
But
there's.
guys, where are these jobs that the GOP keeps saying, as long as you keep
Right.
voting in favor of the Bush tax cuts, we'll create all these jobs? I don't see them.
Yeah, no. Well, here's a problem that they have, too. During the State of the Union, when Obama talked about, again, saying things that Reagan said
Yeah. Yeah.
about how the rich should pay their fair share, I saw one poll, 91% of people watching the State of the Union, Republicans and Democrats, agreed with that statement. 91% agreed with that
It makes
statement,
sense.
that the rich should pay their fair share. That presents an incredible problem for the Republican Party, these people who continue to lie to their constituents by saying, well, we have to keep taxes low, we can't raise taxes on the rich, that'll wreck the economy, that'll destroy jobs. There's no evidence that that's really how it works. And when they keep saying that, people are starting to get wise to that. people are starting to realize, yeah, that is BS. It really doesn't work that way, and we agree the rich should pay their fair share. Furthermore, Republicans insist on evoking the name of Ronald Reagan, every chance they get. Ronald Reagan is their big conservative hero, right? But the thing is, much of what Obama says, Chris, as you pointed out earlier, are things that Reagan said. Reagan talked about the rich should pay their fair share, and how a rich person shouldn't have a lower tax rate than a bus driver who's making however much an hour, and it's not fair. These are the same things that Obama says. If Reagan were alive today, running for the Republican nomination today, they'd hang him.
Yep.
They'd say, oh, he's a liberal. Listen to him talking about the rich. Oh, class warfare. He's talking about how the rich should have to pay their fair share. That's class warfare. That's not right. He'd be considered a liberal. They would literally, their big conservative hero, these same people would literally call Ronald Reagan, of course, he was an actor, so they'd call him a Hollywood liberal who has no idea, who is so out of touch, and he'd never get anywhere near the nomination, let alone the presidency.
You know what the American people need to hear is from people like us who are independent and give them the facts.
Yes.
The fact is that by the end of this June, we will be roughly 16.7 trillion in debt. But out of that, how much of it came from the Bush administration? 10.7 trillion.
Yeah, well,
So it's a lot of money.
Yep.
And 6 trillion is another lot of money, yes. But you know what? If you put them both back to back, there's not much difference there, is there? So we need to make sure that the people understand that Obama did inherit 10.7 trillion.
Oh, sure.
It's a fact.
Absolutely. After all, Obama's not the one who said, let's fight 2 wars and cut taxes.
Right.
And when he finally ended Iraq,
Yeah.
the Republicans blamed him for it. Isn't that what they wanted him to do?
That's the game they play. That's the game they
Well,
play.
that's the game that the American people are so. That's the reason why this country is so divided in even both parties. So divided. It's because we're sick and tired of having both parties do exactly the opposite what they claim they're going to do.
Right.
They're not in our favor.
Right.
They're in their own best interest.
Right. Well, they don't work for us. They work for the special interest groups and the lobbyists and the corporate donors and they have the super PACs who.
Those super PACs.
Oh, what a nightmare!
Let's face it.
That's
Those super
horrible.
PACs. The Supreme Court made a terrible mistake.
Yes, I
when
agree.
they said that corporations are people
And money
they can vote.
And money is speech.
And you know what?
People, my
It's
friend.
even a lot of the conservative Republicans are now saying this is out of control.
Yeah.
So if it does get repealed, it'll be because both parties are in agreement.
Absolutely. So, do you guys think that Obama's reelection is inevitable?
Well, it's not inevitable, but I think it's whatever happens. It depends what happens between now and November.
I think if the economy continues to go in the right direction,
Yes.
which it is, I think he's
But
good.
the GOP is already planning on derailing that.
Oh, sure, with the payroll tax not wanting to.
Yeah,
not wanting
but
to
I
go
think what's
along
more
with that.
important than that is
I think they're going to pass that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think they're going to
I
have
think
to.
Boehner's,
don't have a choice.
He's
Yeah.
conceded on this one.
Yeah.
I think what's important is forget the politics of everything right now. What's going to happen between now and November? The crisis.
Yeah.
Are we going to go at war, or is Israel going to go at war with Iran? Are they
Yeah.
going to close the
Straits of Hormuz? Yeah.
which would affect us a lot?
Yes.
We haven't engaged in Syria yet.
Now, is
That was
Syria
one- that was
is
the-
Syria
yeah.
going to fall, or will it be like Libya? It's going to carry on, and we're going to have to get involved. And how will that go?
Right.
And the Republicans will have to vote for
Did we
that
send
because
a lot
it's-
of forces into Libya?
no, we didn't send any forces. We just sent planes.
Right. So that's why the Republicans say, "Oh, Obama, he led from behind."
Well,
Well, look at the end
apparently,
result.
you know,
Apparently, it
funny-
was the right strategy.
Apparently, he killed Osama bin Laden, but he didn't do it right.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
That's how these people talk.
Bush
how
should have
they
gotten the credit. Well, not on his watch.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Here's something else they're saying. They're saying that Obama really didn't end the war in Iraq. Bush did because it was his war. It didn't happen on his clock.
No. No.
So if you put the facts, and people are common in this country, a lot more than they think. A lot of politicians think that we're not educated, we don't know how to vote. And we're sick of hearing that from our politicians.
Right.
So we're going to hear the facts. We're going to vote on what we believe is in our best interests. And they're going to find out that it's not going to be just Democrat or just Republican. There's going to be a mixed match. And this idea of, they say that there's now a moderate in the House and Senate and Congress. Moderation doesn't
Where?
exist anymore.
Who?
Yeah.
Who are they talking about?
I think there's one moderate who sweeps up after them.
Oh yes.
And who's that? The lobbyists?
Just kind of.
Especially on
No,
the
the lobbyists are not moderate.
especially on the Republican side. I think the Tea Partiers have really just ruined the party and held the
Well, it's-
Yes.
held the party hostage. Like
And
during
let's face it, was it
It's funny how you
was
say
it
that.
a
though.
surprise?
No,
was
no,
it
not a bit.
No.
But it's funny, again, the two sections of the parties that are now protesting, they claim that the Tea Party is more of a Republican party, although the Republicans don't want to claim that.
Right.
And then they claim that the Occupy people are more of the Democratic people, although they don't want to claim that either.
right.
But you know, you have two fashions here. You have the 1%, you have the 99%, and neither of them are happy with their parties. That's how split we are. And then you have, in this case, the Tea Party, who have gone above and beyond what should be done. It's not time for us to fold everything and get rid of all these services. When I
Right.
found out that they took 2.8 trillion in the last 40 years out of Social Security and Medicare, how dare they say we're broke today? Why are we broke? Do you
Right.
hear them say, well, we took your money, we didn't pay it back? No, you
Right.
don't hear them say that.
Now, I'm curious about something you said there, though. You said the 1% isn't happy with their party.
A lot of them aren't.
Well, why wouldn't they be? I mean, these people are protecting them and saying, well, we can't raise taxes, and it's class warfare if we raise taxes on
In the
rich.
last few weeks, you had a few millionaires and billionaires that have come out and says we need to pay our fair
That is true. Yes, that is true.
The
People like
experts-
Warren Buffett.
and
Yes.
he's not some of them even on the Republican side saying we do because if we don't,
Yeah.
we'll never come out of this mess.
Yep, that's true.
You can't bankrupt the middle class and the poor and say that's it. It ain't gonna
Right.
work that way.
That's true. Yeah.
We don't have the income we used to have. The dollar today is not worth the same dollar. Remember, in Canada, you used to get $1.52 for a dollar. Now you get less. You get 98 cents.
I remember when we used to make fun of Canada for having a weak dollar.
Now they're making
True.
fun of us.
Yes, yes. Well, you
Now they
probably
just have weak other things.
yeah, you probably never made fun of Canada. 'cause
Oh, I was
you're-
laughing
you're
all the
half
way.
Canadian. Oh, you were? Okay. Well, very good then. Very good. Now, putting the foreign policy stuff aside for a minute,
That
assume,
is important.
it is important, but putting that aside for a minute and just focusing on the economy, if nothing goes off the rails with the foreign policy aspect of things, do you think that, putting that aside, do you think Obama's reelection is inevitable?
Yes.
Because it seems to me he's in the same position that both Reagan and Clinton were in during their first terms, where they inherited a very tough economy,
That's true.
and it was pretty bad. Reagan, especially during his first term, for most of his first term, the economy was still in pretty rough shape. Didn't turn around until the last year. We actually had, people don't realize this. People talk about how this is the worst economy since the Great Depression. It actually depends on what economic indicator you're using. For example, if you're
That's true.
talking strictly about unemployment, it's actually not. The recession that we went through in the early 80s during Reagan, we had 12% unemployment at one point. 12% unemployment. I fear if we had 12% unemployment today, we'd have rioting in the streets. But you know, Reagan turned it around late in his first term, and he ended up trouncing. To use a Dennis Miller line, he trounced Mondale like a narc at a biker rally. And Bill Clinton, again, a very similar situation, very tough economy. First 2 years of Clinton's presidency were very rough, but it started to turn around in the fourth quarter, and he very easily beat Dole. Of course, in that case, Dole was another candidate no one in the Republican Party was particularly excited about, but it seems Obama's in the same situation.
Dole is blaming Gingrich for his loss, if you notice that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's why he can't. People want to. He keeps saying that people can't. Conservative can't really accept Gingrich because he got thrown out of his party. Got thrown out of his
Just a
job.
despicable human being.
You know, wow.
Yeah.
That's how they
It's-
treat their people, huh?
Yeah.
He's just a despicable human being.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you compare Reagan and Clinton and Obama and look when they first came into the presidency, all three inherited a recession.
Exactly. Yeah.
And by the time their first term was up, we weren't on top, but we were better off when they first became president.
True.
Look at
Yes.
Obama. To me, it's the same thing as Clinton and Reagan. I'll tell you why. For the last 22 months, we have not employed enough people to really jump it up.
Right.
But at least we're balancing.
We're
and we're
going in the right
slowly
direction.
coming down.
Yeah.
Okay? And now we're noticing that the last two to 3 months, we're actually finally reaching that number. You need to reach 250,000. Last month we reached 243. We're slowly getting there.
Yeah. I think the whole thing for Obama hinges on on one specific number, the unemployment rate.
Well,
As
now there's
long
that. Gas will have a lot to do with it. The
Yeah.
foreign affairs, unfortunately, will have a lot to do with it, depending what if we're
Potentially,
in
yeah.
we're in a crisis, a world crisis.
Right.
But I don't see Mitt Romney being a better leader, foreign-wise,
No.
than the president we have now.
I don't either.
What does he have in foreign affairs?
Nothing.
Just offshore accounts.
That's
Many
true.
of those.
That's a good point.
So you don't want to attack those countries.
But I do think out of any, I mean, there are other factors, there are other variables, but I do think out of any factor, I do think unemployment, that number
Yes, if it were to
is
shoot up
the
again.
number one factor. If that starts to go back up, he's screwed.
Yes.
And I think all other things being equal, as long as that number continues to reduce, however slowly it does, as long as it looks like we're moving in the right direction, I think he'll win a second term.
But you know, guys, this is what the GOP has in mind: is they can slow down that unemployment process and have it go up again. That's why they will. The GOP will never vote in favor of getting rid of the Bush taxes,
Right.
because they know that if they did and they pay their fair share,
Private sector
it will
jobs
give
will
us
increase
and it will give us the
substantially.
American people a boost, saying we are finally going. We're good. We see an end here.
Right.
Now, here's a story of today where Obama, during his State of the Union speech, mentioned Masterlock, the company that had sent their workforce outsourced. They sent it overseas, and they brought it back to Wisconsin. So today, President Obama went to Wisconsin to talk to the workers at this factory, at the Masterlock factory. In Wisconsin now, which is actually, I think, is the one state that currently still has the highest unemployment rate.
Do they? Yeah.
Yes, and
really?
a year ago, either was it yesterday or the day before, within the past year, that's exactly the date when the union workers started protesting Governor
Okay.
Scott Walker.
Yeah.
Now, if you've been following along with this in Wisconsin, Scott Walker has been recalled. The effort has gone through.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So
He's gotten they have gotten the signatures to recall him. So now they're in the process of trying to get him out.
Now,
Wow.
I
He
have
is
a
still
question.
currently governor. Now the
If-
plan was
if the vote wins, is he actually out?
yes.
That's what I thought.
Wow, that's
Now,
huge.
The plan
That is
was
huge.
today, Governor Walker was supposed to meet with President Obama and go over to the Masterlock factory. Governor Walker still has the flu. So
Oh,
he was
yes.
going to meet President Obama at the tarmac and then go back home.
Well, being recalled, I'm sure it took a toll on his immune system.
And it probably helps that there is union employees who work at Masterlock.
Who probably
yes.
And
boo
if
him.
he's read
Yes.
the news, then he's probably. I think he has a case of the cowardice. I think
Yeah.
he's got a little chicken
Yeah.
going on. So
I almost don't blame him.
yep.
I mean, I don't
Well,
like the guy,
remember,
but
he created his own problem.
oh yes, he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's still with
You may
the
not blame him, but I do, because he created his own problem.
state with the highest unemployment rate is this guy.
Yeah.
And he is the one who caused his own problems.
You know,
I would not like to be that governor.
No.
I really wouldn't.
You know, the issue of unions versus busting unions versus right to know law, the right
Right to work.
to work law. This is how I feel as an independent. If I work for you and you allow unions, I don't have to be in a union. If I choose not to join your union, one, I don't pay for it. Two, you don't represent me. I'm not paying for it.
Right.
If I want to join the union, I pay for it and I get represented.
Right.
Yep.
What's so wrong with that? But today, if you don't belong to a union, you still got to pay the union dues. That's wrong.
That's wrong.
That's not
Yes.
democracy.
Yeah.
So let's be fair about it. If you
Right.
look at all the Southern states who have the right to work laws, are they doing better than we are? They're getting
Yeah.
much lower income paid than we are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And unions, let's face it, unions can be the biggest bullies when it comes to
Oh,
employment.
they're not
as
like they
well.
used to be.
If you are not an employee, if you are not in a union, but even if you are or aren't paying those union dues and you try to go to work during a strike,
Yeah.
oh, you would better come prepared.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll be the first to admit that the unions today do not represent the force the way they did. The interests were different.
I think it depends.
People cared about people. Now it's all about money, no matter where you go. It's so greedy.
I'd be careful with the blanket statements, though. I
Yeah,
think
too
you're,
much
you're
greed.
generalizing with
Yeah.
that, but I think some unions are good and useful. I do want to transition a little bit. Chris, you said something about when you mentioned Governor Walker was going to go to the tarmac to greet the president, it reminded me of Governor Jan Brewer.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
What
yeah,
could you possibly be talking about?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Arizona.
Jan Brewer, governor of Arizona, greeting Obama at the tarmac and angrily pointing a finger
maybe we can recreate
famous
this.
photo.
There we go,
Well, you
sorry.
don't look angry enough.
That looks like a
Well,
gun.
it's just you in the shot. So.
Yeah, okay. But
Are you holding you hostage?
and Chris, you had said something the other
Look
night.
here, boy. It's that's the kind of caption that it
Well,
looks
that's
like.
what I want to ask you guys about. I feel like this president is disrespected on a level
Absolutely.
beyond anything we've seen with any other president. And I realize if you're a Republican, you have to hate the Democrat who's in the White House.
God,
And if there's a
God.
Republican in the White House, if you're a Democrat, you have to hate Bush. And I understand that. And it's and often this partisanship and these disagreements over policy, they do translate into hate, and it's something that's very frustrating about our society. But I think with this president, these people hate him. I mean, some of the things that are said about him and the way that he is treated so disrespectfully, I don't think, for example, Jan Brewer would have waved her finger in Bill Clinton's face like that.
No.
Do you guys think that there's an element of race to this?
Oh, hell yes.
To an extent, yes. There's no question about it.
Because the other thing that I keep hearing from these people is, and I think Rick Perry was one of the first people I heard say it when he first got into the race, was talking about how Obama just doesn't love his country the same way that we do, that we good patriotic Republicans do.
Is this the same man who has the country club of the N-word head?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'd forgotten about
Yeah.
that. Yes. Do you guys? I mean,
Why don't you remind me of what his name is?
It's Barack Obama is the president of the United States,
Yes.
not N-word head.
There
no.
you go. Thank you.
And we don't
But-
have to remember Rick Perry because he's dropped out of the race.
That's right.
Well, that's not true. He went on a national
Oh no, he said
TV.
he'll be back in 2016. So.
Actually,
Yes, which is
there-
funny. Which I hope he does run
He-
because
he
I
may
find
very
him
well-
quite funny.
Hillary.
He may even consider running as an independent.
No.
Really?
Depending who wins.
Rick Perry?
I don't think Rick Perry. If you notice, he gave his blessings to to Mr. Gingrich.
Yes.
Not to the Speaker of the House, not to Mitt Romney. I don't think he likes Mitt Romney very much.
No, he may not. Well, a lot of
Maybe it's
them
because he's
don't
too
like
moderate.
Romney very much.
Maybe he's too much of a centrist.
But do you guys think that? So you agree that race does play a role in this?
Absolutely.
To an
Yeah.
extent, yes. No
Absolutely.
question.
What's really interesting to me too is how they try to. Sometimes they'll try to paint him as being secretly Muslim, but at the same time they also got all worked up about the church that he went to, the Christian church. The whole Jeremiah Wright thing during 2008. So it's like, well, which is it, guys? Are you mad at him for being secretly a Muslim, or are you mad at him for going to a Christian church where the pastor said some inflammatory things about America?
Oh, and his birth certificate is a lie.
Yes, yes.
First of all, they're obviously not doing a good job for candidates running for a presidential office.
Mhm.
And they don't venue them first to prove that you were born in the U.S. It's a crap of baloney. Bullshit. Can I say that in this state?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Bullshit. You know darn well they knew he was born in the States.
Right.
And for them to ask for a second birth certificate is ridiculous.
Yes. And what about the gay marriage issue? This is another thing where I think the Republicans have really damaged
Oh, yeah.
themselves
Yes,
with
absolutely.
mainstream and independent voters.
Well, that's where Santorum is such a scary fellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, even Romney was. I
To an
think I
ex-
mentioned this on VE the other night that
Mm-hmm.
Romney was heard saying that he would love to elect a completely conservative Supreme Court, which he can't. But
Right.
this is what he would
Yeah.
like to do when
Right.
he becomes president. So there'd be no question of putting same-sex marriage into the Constitution. But you
Now-
can't do that.
Right.
Do you guys think that California will be decided before November?
Oh,
I'm not sure where we are on that in terms of the gay marriage.
There's a
Because-
lot of questions as to whether or not the Supreme Court of
Will
the
take
United
it,
States will
yes.
take it.
Yeah.
But if they would and they would decide it, it could make a big difference in the election.
Oh god, if California was to overturn it completely and to allow gay marriages to start, because right now gay marriage still isn't allowed.
That's right.
They've overturned Prop 8, which says that we cannot put this in the Constitution, that same-sex marriage can be banned. So they're still not allowed to get married
That's
right
right.
now, legally. So if it's overturned that Californians can get same-sex marriage
But it's closer to their favor
and get
now.
it legalized,
Then
absolutely. But we are talking about a very blue state as it is. So
Right.
their minds, most of their minds are made up right now that it's going to go to Obama.
But you also got to think that blue state or not, it is also the most populated state in population of
Yeah.
all the 50 states.
Yeah.
Yep.
But does anyone know? I haven't heard anyone really answer this question. When they overturned Prop 8, what then happened legally to all those marriages
Legally,
that occurred?
those still stand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that court, is it the 9th District? They upheld all of the marriages that had occurred prior to
You
Prop
can't
8.
break a contract.
So those
Right.
2-3
Although our
months.
mayor likes to
Yes.
think that he can do that, but
In fact, it was in their statement that said, the same statement that said, you cannot discriminate. We are not going to overturn any of the marriages that
Yeah,
had
that-
already occurred.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. And another state just voted in gay marriage. Who is it?
Washington
State.
Washington State.
And somebody else is doing it soon.
is it Connecticut? There's
Maryland.
Maryland,
says
yes,
they're-
yes. So there's
Connecticut
progress
is
They're
there.
close to
Has
that.
Connecticut passed it yet, or is it Rhode Island still trying to pass it? It's Rhode Island trying to make it law.
Well, there's also something very
Rhode
interesting.
Island doesn't count in anything.
Yeah, it's
Why?
just a tiny.
It's Massachusetts' second biggest city. That's all Rhode Island is. Now third. There's Boston, Worcester, then Rhode Island.
Did you know though, guys? An
Actually, Worcester is 168,000, and Providence is 173,000.
I don't care.
and
So
it's
the
run
second-
by
I don't
and it's
care.
and it's run by
I
the
really don't care.
run by
It's
the
Rhode
mob.
Island.
But you know what's funny?
Sorry if anyone's from Rhode
If you
Island.
say that Providence is Massachusetts' second biggest city,
It's a joke.
I
It's
know
a
that.
Joke.
But if you look at it in a,
Jesus Christ.
I understand it. I'm trying to make a point here.
Do you
Devil's
understand
in the
humor?
details.
I understand it, but I'm trying to make a point here. We here in Manchester are being treated the same way. Why is it? It's always the Boston Regional Manchester Airport, the Boston this. We should have our own metro in New Hampshire.
Oh, absolutely.
We shouldn't be part of Massachusetts.
Well, sorry, we're gonna talk about this just for a second.
okay. Well,
For
I don't know. I
the-
should say.
To
my
boost
show.
Manchester and New Hampshire's economy, I think there should be easier access between the two states.
I don't argue
Or
that.
between the two biggest cities, Manchester and Boston.
I don't argue that.
Because they've limited it. Boston Express has
Yeah.
limited
Yeah.
service now. There's no rail.
Yeah.
I think we need to get those people who shop in Boston to come up. And not just all the people who live like maybe 15 minutes away from Salem or Nashua to come
Well,
over
that's
to
why
the
you need
border.
the rails, no question.
But I agree that we also should be our own separate entity, and I think to an extent we are.
Yeah, but you have too many politicians that are not really proud of our city, I think, because why is it
Well,
that they
then
change all
don't-
these rules?
Don't vote for those politicians anymore.
I don't. Trust me.
No, I wanna,
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, but there is something as far as gay marriage. There is something else interesting that's happening in the state of New Jersey.
Yo, what?
Governor Chris Christie, a Republican, has said.
Conservative Republican.
Okay, well, I don't know how conservative he is, but he has said that he wants to go to referendum with the gay marriage issue, which is very interesting. And I'm wondering what his motivation is for that. Because I know that
Well, he wants to run for president in the future.
well, the state assembly. This is what I think. I'll tell you my theory. Because the state assembly looks like they're going to approve it. So now he's in a position to sign off on it or veto it. And I guess he's trying to kind of have it both ways. He'll veto it, but then send it to referendum.
That's right.
Now, if he does that, this is my theory. It's just his way of completely dodging the issue, because either way, he can say, if he sends it to referendum and the people vote and vote it in, he can say, well, my hands are clean. If he does decide to run for president in the future and this hurts him with the conservative
That's
base, he
right.
can say, I didn't vote for gay marriage. I didn't approve
That's
this. I vetoed it. The people wanted it, and they got their way. If
Yep.
they vote it down in referendum,
He'll still the same way.
he still wins.
That's
He wins
right.
either
In
way.
or out.
I think it's
His
brilliant.
hands are washed.
From purely, I mean, I'm pro-gay marriage, but purely political, as a political calculation, I think it's very, very
Well,
smart
he doesn't want to
on his
repeat
part.
what Walker did in Wisconsin on a different issue.
Right. Well, he's anti-union too, though, Chris Christie.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying, and he saw what it's doing to Walker.
Right.
And he doesn't want to have that
Yeah.
on his shoulder, that
yeah.
baggage on his
Come up
shoulder.
and bite him on that huge
Especially-
ass of
Yeah,
his-
especially if he runs for president in the next 4 years.
Right. He does need to shore up if he is going to run for president. And by the way, I don't think he's going to.
I don't think he can run for anything.
Right. Exactly.
He'll be walking for president?
Unless he loses some weight. It takes a lot of physical stamina to run for national office, as all the campaigning.
Well, isn't that what the governor of Mississippi decided not to run?
Haley Barbour, he's another.
And then he gave away all these pardons to criminals that should never have been pardoned.
Yeah, that's it. I got to learn more about that. That's a very interesting issue. But I don't think he's going to run. But he does need to shore up his conservative bona fides, because I know one thing that would hurt him too is he's on record. He's a former federal prosecutor, I think.
Who's this?
Chris Christie.
Chris Christie.
And he's on record as having saying, for example, on immigration, Republicans love to scream and holler about immigration, illegal immigration, all these evil brown people coming into the country. Chris Christie is on record as having said that it's not a crime, technically, to be in the country illegally. And he's right. Because, and I know Republicans don't like to hear this, but it is not a crime to come into the country illegally. It's like a Class F misdemeanor. It's about as much a crime as driving too fast, basically. I'm not saying that makes it okay.
No, but I'll tell you what the
but
crime
it's not a crime, and Chris Christie agrees that it's not a crime.
And I agree with that too, but I'll tell you what is the crime. The crime is that these big corporations that are hiring the illegal, and they're not the federal law that we have today is not being enforced on these multi-million-dollar corporations.
Right, and it never will be, and that's why the Republicans are so phony.
So who's creating the problem?
Well, the Republicans are part of the problem because they give a lot of lip service to being anti-illegal immigration. They talk the talk, but we had we had 8 years of a Republican president. How'd that big fence turn out?
George Bush is from
They're
Texas.
almost done.
From Texas, yeah.
They're almost done.
It didn't.
Oh yeah, it'll be done in
Just a few more years.
Yeah,
It's all right.
there is no fence. It's never going to get finished because this is the game they play. We pretend, and when I say we, I mean we as Americans, pretend to be so concerned about the border and all these illegal immigrants coming in. So Republicans, catering to their base, they pay a lot of lip service to the idea that we have to solve the problem of the border. But nothing gets done, and the reason nothing gets done is because they don't want to actually do anything about it. It's red meat for the voters to pretend that they're so upset about the problem, but the people who are donating to their campaigns, the corporations, the special interest groups, the lobbyists, all these people who want the cheap labor. They want the cheap labor to keep coming into the country, and that is the dirty little secret about illegal immigration.
Right. Do you really think that if they completed a fence from Texas all the way to California, that you couldn't get through?
It wouldn't
That
stop
the corporation wouldn't say, I want my employers to get cheap labor, so get them in here somehow.
Right,
They're going to
right.
truck them here, or they're going to fly them over.
Right. Now, I give Newt Gingrich a little, believe it or not, I will give Newt Gingrich a little bit of credit.
How dare you?
I know.
He is a smart man.
He is a smart man in some ways. I will give him credit for having the gall, the nerve to say, in front, and people booed him. He took a lot of crap for this. He recovered from it really quick, though. But when he said, at a debate, the first time he mentioned it, when he said, look, we have to have some compassion. And to hear a conservative actually using a word like compassion, that's amazing. We actually have to have some compassion for these people. We can't just round them all up and send them home. It's not that simple. For example, someone who's been in the country for 25 years, they're part of the community, they go to church, they're good citizens. You really want to just grab them and ship them home.
Well, he actually used grandma and grandpa.
Yes. Yeah. And I agree with him, and I was impressed. It took
when it comes to that.
And Rick Perry too, to his credit. I can't believe I'm giving that guy credit for anything, but he said he talked about compassion too, and they really booed him for that, and he stuck to his guns.
Because does he really have compassion though?
Probably not, but he had the gall to express a compassionate point of view, because there's a lot of Republicans who are like, oh, you got to round them all up and send them home, and that's it. Of course, anyone who knows anything about history should be a little creeped out when they hear people talking about rounding people up.
It's an old attitude that don't solve problems.
Why don't we put them in their own camps?
Yeah, it leads to some rounding people up. Doesn't tend to lead to anything.
Put them in the boat and let them go across the ocean. I love the way they solve problems in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Statue of Liberty on the other side. Go visit that.
Yeah.
We got it from France. Go back there.
There needs to be a path to citizenship, and we need to make it easier. But they talk about them like they're criminals. I've even heard them referred to as criminal aliens. And it's
the ones that come here and sell drugs. And
those are criminals.
Those are drugs and weapons. Those are the criminals.
Right.
The ones who are coming here for a better life deserve that chance.
Yes.
But they should go through the steps of becoming a citizen.
Right.
But the criminal element.
The ones that are here we should make it easier for them. We should make it harder for those that are coming in now.
Yeah.
Totally agree. There has to be a balance. And this balance of throwing everybody out, 11 million people?
Yeah.
No, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. So
And if it were to happen, what are we going to have to do to Mexico? We're going to have to give them a lot of millions of our dollars to take care of those people.
And
There's
it would-
no jobs in Mexico.
no, there aren't, and it would damage our economy because
Oh, yeah.
See, the conservatives
All
who
at one
are
time.
conservatives who are so anti-immigration too, they talk about how, well, these people are a drain on our system. They're taxpayers, and they try to pretend that they're not. Conservatives try to say, no, they come here, they get all these services, they don't pay any taxes. That's a lie, because it is physically impossible to participate in the American economic system without paying taxes. We pay taxes on everything. Most states, New Hampshire is an exception, most states have sales taxes. We don't have a sales tax, but we have a meals tax and a lodging tax, and you pay property taxes, and even if you're renting, you're still paying a property
so
tax
you're paying it
because
somehow.
your landlord is passing some of that tax on to you. You pay taxes on all kinds of stuff. Even if you're using if your employer allows you to use a fake Social Security number, they're still paying Social Security taxes on your employment. You're still paying FICA. You're still contributing to the American economy. You cannot exist in this country without paying taxes and contributing to the economy.
You know, you should be asking yourself, who really is the drain on our American system? If the big corporations who have the dough were to pay their fair taxes and not hide their money in the Caribbean or in some other Swiss bank,
Yeah.
and they pay their taxes on those money
Yeah.
that we are paying, and if they paid a decent wage, which they're not because they're getting cheap labor from having the illegals come here.
Right.
So in a sense, they are good at giving all this rhetoric, but they don't practice what they preach, do
Right.
they? They are the cause of a lot of the
And
problems.
Right.
I'll say something that's probably not of a popular opinion.
Well, that's perfect for this show.
I know. I
on me?
honestly,
Yes.
I honestly believe that there are lazy Americans in this country.
There's no question.
Oh, of course there are.
Absolutely. That just
It exists in
the
every country.
reason that
I mean, I'm not gonna go-
Hispanics are getting these jobs, these
Yeah.
landscaping job. I know it's a stereotype. But
Hey, I'm not
yes.
going to go pick oranges, and neither are
Yeah.
you, and neither are you.
I'm just gonna sit on my couch, watch Jerry, and collect my my benefit check.
Right.
Because picking oranges or cutting the lawn or trimming the hedges, I'm better than this. Really?
There is an attitude
You
like
know,
that.
and,
Absolutely.
and people are like, "Oh no, how dare you!" Turn on a fucking a reality
Yeah.
television show like
Right.
Teenage Mom. There it is,
Oh,
right
yeah.
in front of you.
Yeah.
Those kids sitting on their ass doing nothing because I'm better than this.
But who changed
Really?
that?
Because you're not employed.
Who changed that attitude? The government.
But how? How did the government?
Well, they because it's now acceptable in American society that if you don't want to do the dirty work, we'll always get the aliens, the illegal
Right,
people
right.
to come in and
Because
do it.
we're not serious about
So-
the border.
And we have
Right.
a federal law that strictly says that if you, as a corporation, you cannot legally hire people who are not Americans.
Right. But there
Unless
is
it-
zero enforcement.
That's right. So you have to ask yourself, the government is instilling this in us.
Right.
And eventually, as the generations are brought up, the attitude is there. Like anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are the problem.
Right. On the other hand, you do want to be careful about, and I agree there are a lot of lazy Americans, but
Oh,
you
no
also
question.
want to be careful about, you have conservatives who have this idea, and I talked about this recently on my show that everyone contributes to the problem, and that a lot of these people, like Ron Paul, wants to cut $1 trillion out of the government, and they want to cut entitlements. It's the libertarian attitude. There should be no entitlements. There should be no government help for anybody. And what upsets me is, especially with unemployment, for example, a lot of Republicans won't vote to extend unemployment. They say, oh, no, we can't afford it. We don't have the money in the budget. Not even considering, and this is why I think there's a bit of a deficit of compassion and empathy on the right. It's like they don't even think about, well, these decisions affect real people. And I know why they don't care. I know why I use the example of Michelle Bachmann because I remember watching her on Meet the Press, asked by David Gregory, well, why didn't you vote for that unemployment discussion? And she just very casually and dismissively says, oh, we just can't afford it, so I voted against it. Well, she doesn't care that that's going to affect real people.
She's
and
never
that
been unemployed.
Right, exactly. And not only that, but poor people aren't going to vote Republican anyway. So that's why a lot of these Republicans, I think, they can afford to have that attitude. No, we'll just vote against it. We don't want to help anybody. Oh, welfare, you know what? We should just get rid of it. We don't need to help anybody. Anybody who needs help, they're just lazy anyway. They're just bad Americans. We forget them, because those people aren't going to vote for them anyway.
And on the other side of that story is let's take the food stamp. This is a food stamp president.
Oh, Gingrich said that, yes, which has racial undertones.
I have to look at
yes.
I have to look at it this way. We're in a recession. No matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat in the White House, when you're in a recession, you have more food stamps.
Yes.
Why is that? Because you have more unemployment.
Of course.
It's common sense.
Of course, but it's the demonization of the poor.
You think Reagan didn't give out more food stamps, or Clinton in his first years?
Of course.
He did, because there was more people in need.
Of course.
It's baloney.
But they have this blame the poor attitude, and they play this game where they think that, because some people do abuse, like Chris said.
Oh, there's no question.
Some people do abuse the system, but they take the attitude that because some people abuse the system, everybody abuses the system.
And they're not seeing those families that are struggling day to day.
Exactly.
That are qualified to work these jobs, but
they're not getting it.
There are others that are
Right.
would rather get paid less, whether it be illegal immigrants or not.
Right.
Or kids that they're pulling right out of high school saying, hey, why don't you work the fryer later?
Right.
Because they don't know better.
Right.
$8 an hour? Oh, that's a lot of money.
Let me ask you this
Yeah.
question.
That is a lot of money.
If
to
you were
somebody
laid
who
off
does not have
today,
a job right now.
If you were laid off today, and you were told you could work part-time, let's say at McDonald's, on the fryer, would you take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
attitude
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I would try my damnedest to see if there was something in the
Oh,
industry that
there's no-
I could find.
There's no
but
question. But in the meantime,
In the meantime, yeah.
you'll try to uplift yourself.
Yep.
Do you guys think, and it's almost time to wrap up, but do you guys think it's kind of funny? And I don't mean funny like not humorous. I don't like to see anyone struggling. I don't like to see anyone having a hard time. But I've always thought, and I talked about this on the very first episode of Matt Connarton Unleashed, Republicans who collect unemployment, I think is kind of funny because they're so oblivious to the, I don't know if I'd say hypocrisy, but it's just the irony of that. Because if you're a Republican and you're actively collecting unemployment or any kind of government benefit or entitlement, and you actively vote Republican, you are actively voting for and supporting a party that hates you. Mm-hmm. Because Republicans think that anyone who collects unemployment or goes on welfare or anything like that is a leech and a loser and a drag on the system. Mm-hmm. But I personally know, and so do you, and I'm thinking of someone specific.
Yes.
I personally know and have known Republicans who, and I'm not blaming them for collecting, I think, hey, if you fall on hard times, if you lose your job and the economy sucks, so there's not another job to go get right away, of course you should collect. You have a right to survive just like anybody else. You pay into the system, you should get something back for that if you need it.
Absolutely.
So I'm not begrudging anybody who has to collect unemployment, but I just think it's funny that people who are so diehard Republican and conservative and believe in all these principles, but and continue to be that way when they fall on hard times and have to use the system, which they have a right to do. If you're a Republican in that situation, you are supporting a party that hates people like you. They like you on election day, but they basically think that you're a leech and a loser and that you're a failure and that you suck as an American if you're in that situation. So I just always found that very ironic.
I find gay Republicans amusing as well.
Yeah, that's also funny, yes.
Yeah.
The gay Republicans, yes.
But now, we're almost close to the end, so I want to definitely make this statement.
Yes, please.
I am neither a Republican nor a Democrat, and I neither want to be either of them.
Right. We're all independents,
For
all
the
three of
simple
us.
reason that it used to mean something to belong to the Republican or the Democratic Party. It doesn't today. I'm sorry. You take their agendas, and they don't bring us on a path moving forward.
Right.
It's their special interests and their special interests.
Exactly.
And what are they fighting for in the Congress? For their specific special interests in their specific agendas.
Yes.
Not in
And
what's
sometimes-
best for the American public.
Right, exactly. And sometimes they're the same people, too.
Yeah, and that's why I'm an independent.
And in the,
Yes.
I don't like the parties because they're not working for the best interest of the public.
Let's face it,
Exactly.
in the past few years, the Republicans, specifically the Republicans, I'm sure there are Democrats out there, but the Republican Party has been taking some large steps backwards.
Oh, yeah.
They-
We're
yes.
regressing and not progressing, especially where hatred towards or disrespect towards our president,
Yeah.
promoting discrimination against homosexuals and their rights to marry and just be human beings. It's just, it's outstanding.
Just say they've moved so far to the right.
And I'll even go one more step further.
Yes.
When you look at the facts, for example, 2.8 trillion in the last 40 years came
women
out
in
of the
birth
Congress.
control. Sorry, that was the other one. Women in birth control.
Oh,
That
yes,
was-
this whole
well,
anti-contraception movement.
Let me finish this statement then, because I do want to go to that, so it's very important.
Yeah.
But when we know for a fact that the Congress, in both houses, in both parties, in the last 30 to 40 years, have pulled out, have loaned themselves as a government 2.8 trillion, with the promise of paying us back at 2%. They haven't paid a cent.
Right.
And then to say, well, we got to get rid of the services. Well, the money was there that we paid in,
Yeah.
and now you're going to get rid of our money?
There's always broken.
stole it.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Sorry.
There's always broken promises on the fiscal side
But
of
let me
that,
go to
unfortunately.
it's the funniest thing because Mitt Romney made it very clear when he was when he was campaigning in the last debate for New Hampshire. He told George Stephanopoulos that I'm killing him. I'm sorry, Stephanopoulos. I'm sorry, George, but they made him sweat that night.
Yeah.
Mitt made it very clear, George. There's no problem with what's the word? There's
there's no problem with birth control.
birth control or any of those
It's
things.
working just fine, he said.
Leave it
Yeah,
alone.
Yeah.
And now he's taking it part of his campaign. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
Why? Because of the votes
Yep.
on the
Well-
GOP side.
Well, one of the things that's fun to watch about this whole thing is watching Santorum force Mitt Romney to discuss social and cultural issues, because Romney wants no part of that. Romney wants to talk about the economy. That's all he wants to talk about. And Santorum is forcing him into a corner. That's what's so much fun about it. I don't like either of these guys, but I'll tell you what, I'm having fun watching Santorum force Romney into the corner where he has to talk about things that he does not want to have to talk about.
In fact, if Mitt
It's
had
awesome.
his choice, he would like to campaign. He wants to campaign against Obama now,
Oh,
not
yeah.
against anybody else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of
and he's
course.
trying there very hard.
Yeah. But Santorum keeps pulling him in, and it's great.
And he
It's
should.
so much fun to watch.
And you should.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll wrap up. We're at an hour. So, Glenn, thank you again for this opportunity
welcome.
to come on QCNews.com, do the second ever
I hope you do it
television
more
edition.
often.
Absolutely. I would love to. Absolutely. The radio edition moves to Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. I'm sorry. Sunday mornings at, 9 a.m. Eastern, beginning March 11th, but I do hope to do more of this on Wednesday night. Absolutely, the television edition. So, Glenn, thanks very much for being on Matt
welcome.
Connarton Unleashed here at QCNews.com, Studio D.
Studio D.
And Chris, as always, thank you for joining me also. Chris,
pleasure.
co-host of Verbal Ejaculation, Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern with Daniel Randlett,
Dan
who is a
Randlett.
Republican.
Yes.
I think he
Scoop.
might have. Has he ever collected Anyway.
Anyhow.
Anyway.
29 minutes till Amsterdam. My goodness, I gotta get home.
Yeah, be sure to tune in to Mansterdam on IPMNation.com on the Mansterdam channel, 11 p.m. tonight, Eastern Time, and
Where is that aired
TV
from?
23 in Manchester.
yes, but you can also watch it right on IPMNation.com.
Where is it aired from? Where is it actually done?
Manchester, New Hampshire, TV 23.
Oh, that's right. It's Wednesday night. What am I
Yes,
thinking?
the Manchester Studios.
Wednesday night, yes. So thanks everybody,
Another great
and
show, guys.
we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.